Hi, this is Debbie back with Mom's New Life. Yesterday, my brother and I went and started to pre-plan our parents' funerals. You might want to do that for one of the reasons you might want to do that is because when the time actually happens and you've never done something like that before, there's a lot of things to think about, and you probably will be rattled and might want to spend more money than you have. So I would suggest going to the funeral home and at least talking about and writing down ideas that you have for their funeral. So I'm going to go through a list of a few things that we talked about then. One of the things that you'll need to bring to the funeral home are clothes for the deceased, whether it's your parents or a close relative that you need to plan the funeral for. The clothing will have to have a high neckline because of the embalmment and different things. You probably want to have long sleeves in case they've been in the hospital and they have marks on their arms from IVs and other things like that. You want to bring clothes that they normally wear, like pants and underwear and socks. Another thing that you would need to bring to the funeral home is a photo from the last couple of months that they were alive. They need the photo to do the makeup for after the embalming and getting them ready to be presented. Also, you need a photo if you're having the obituary put in the newspaper or if you want a video made. You'll need to bring the biographical information, their full name, their parents' name, their birth date, social security numbers, and insurance policies. If they're a vet, you need to have the DD 214 certificate and their marriage license. And all these last few things, the biographical information, a lot of that is used for the death certificate. And then you'll want to order at least like 10 so you make sure that you have enough things for that. When you write out the obituary, you want to have the names of all the family members. They have information for you. You'll have to fill out the biographical information, their name, their parents' name, their kids' names, and any other special things that you want to put in there. Say if they belong to, if they helped with 4-H, or if they were a Knights of Columbus, or any special things that you want to put in there. You might want to put some of their hobbies in. For instance, my dad did a lot of bike riding, and so we would probably put that in there. They also will talk to you about merchandise that you need to buy. You can buy a casket from price down like $100 all the way up to like $5,000 or more. They will talk to you about printed material. That's the book that they have open for people to sign when they come for the wake. And when they sign that, there also are little cards that people can take home to remember your relative by. And when you get there, the funeral home should give you a book. The funeral home should give you a pre-planning book, and it will have all the different things that you need in there. They will also give you a sheet for the biographical information, which will have your deceased family member's name, address, township. Also, you'll have to have their social security number for the death certificate and the county where they died. And then also, you might want to put in their occupations, especially if they were working when they died. If they did any military service. And then you will also be putting in statistical, in the obituary, you would also be putting in where and when the funeral will be and things like that. When you're there, you should ask the funeral director that's helping you to keep a running tally of the cost of things that are going on, so when you get to the end, you're not totally shocked. When you go, you want to bring one person with you, maybe a couple. They suggest that you don't bring little children or like 30 or 40 people, because it's just too many opinions and too many things going on. So bring 1 or 2 people with you that can help you make decisions, and also they'll be there for when you go home and you're like, what did they say? So they'll be there and they can tell you. They'll be asking for cash advances on a few things, like the cemetery plot, the opening and closing of the plot. And then I was asking too, you know, if your loved person dies when the ground is frozen, I guess they melt the earth, and so then you have to pay for that too. The church cost, if you are having the funeral at a church, there's a cost for the priest, the server, the choir, or singer. You'll have to pay for the lunches. I know our church charges by the plate for the lunches and the rental fee of the church. Now, if you don't have a church or a priest, you can change those costs to what you would be dealing with. Like, for instance, there could be a Knights of Columbus building or the American Vets building where you're going to have your dinner at, or some people go to a restaurant. So you have to figure in all those fees. But a lot of times the funeral director will tally up and pay those people. So that's a pre-cost that you need to pay. Also, for flowers and things like that, if you want to have a flower on top of the casket that says beloved mother, grandmother, sister, whatever you want to say on there. Or if your dad's a vet, you would have them get things for the vet, like the American flag, and then the people to do the salute at the cemetery. Other costs for funerals are the vault company gets paid, and if you have your casket sealed, that's another fee. If you put the obituary in a paper, the papers charge quite a bit of money for that. I know our local newspaper, he said, charges $300 to put an obituary in. If you're in a bigger city, it might be more. They also put the obituary on the funeral home website that you can share with people. The funeral home has a financing fee for if you have them take care of the insurance to help pay for the funeral bill. Other things they help you take care of are, some funeral homes have boards where you can put pictures on them, and then you can give the boards back when you're done. You can ask them if there's a place for children to play. It's a good idea to take children with you, but if they're little, like 10 and under, and your visitation is 3 hours or so, that's a long time for little kids. So bring them in, and then have a friend or a relative who's willing to take them home after a while when they start getting rambunctious. You can ask them if they have refreshments at the funeral home for the wake, or if you can bring things in. Not all funeral homes will let you bring in refreshments, something about health codes or something like that. And then when you go in to set up for the funeral, especially if you haven't done it ahead of time, you do not want to go into the funeral home and say, okay, we're having the funeral at this church or wherever at this time, because if a whole bunch of people have died, the funeral home might not have that particular time slot to have your funeral. So you can talk to your church or whoever's going to be doing the service for your deceased person and have some suggestions, and then you go to the funeral home and show them the dates and see if their dates coincide with any of those. But don't have a preset date, because sometimes it doesn't work out. So remember to work with the funeral directors, because the funeral directors know what they're doing. They've done it lots of times before. There's lots of ins and outs that we don't know about, but we also have choices. So make sure you ask any questions you can, but I would highly suggest that you go in and not necessarily prepay, but go through things and help sign up, write down different things that you want to do and don't want to do, so you're in their system. And the other thing is too, like if my brother and we went in yesterday to learn about things to help set up for when my mom and dad die. If we were doing it for real yesterday, we would have been mind blown and all the things that you have to think about. So I highly suggest setting up your parents' funeral ahead of time. And then also, eventually, I would really highly suggest that you set up your funeral ahead of time too, with different things that you want, not necessarily prepaying at the time, but you will want to get your ideas down on paper. So when you do die, the person that has to take care of your funeral arrangements doesn't have to do everything. All right. If you have any questions, I found a really good YouTuber that works in a funeral home, and she has answered a lot of my questions since I went into the funeral home and talked to the director. I went on YouTube looking for somebody, and this person has a lot of small, to the point YouTube videos on funerals, and I would highly suggest looking at her videos. So I will post them down at the bottom. And hopefully your funerals won't come very soon, but we know eventually they will. So time to think about things ahead of time, so the people that need to take care of them aren't totally shocked and everything that has to go on. And remember, I'm praying for all of you, and you have a wonderful day.